Hi, so again, I'm Aditi. I am part of the women's team and we run programs globally. We've done programs in 22 countries, and now with COVID, we are doing work virtually, and this is how we are able to get to meet everybody. I am also a civil engineer and have a background with working in the water and sanitation industry as well. So welcome to our first virtual Ask an Engineer series, and our mission really today is about learning about engineering and technology. It's such a vast world, and I know some of you have seen on our WhatsApp group that we started yesterday that you're really excited about entering this world, but you really need that support and asking questions that probably Google isn't helping you answer, right? So our key mission today is learn about opportunities and various engineering and tech fields. So we have a number of guest speakers on that I'm going to be introducing you to, and then ask some of your burning questions as well. Sarah, you say you can't hear anything. Maybe if you want to try joining again, that will help. And so just a few rules around how we can make this work. So the call will be recorded and shared on YouTube so that you can relive and learn more about the different fields of engineering that we're going to be talking about and learning more from our guests as well. Everyone, once you do enter, you are muted, but we're happy for you to unmute yourself if you have a question. If you do have a question, either if you're on a web browser on your laptop or on your cell phone, if you click on participants and you click on your name, you'll see a more button, and then you can raise your hand over there. So we'd be able to pick up if you want to ask a question, or else you can also just unmute yourself, right? So today is very much about engaging. You can also use reactions. So you will see a gray bar at the bottom, and it shows reactions. And if you click on those reactions, you get a thumbs up, and you get a clap as well. I'm not sure if any of you can see it. Some of you can test. I see already some of the thumbs up, right? So perfect. And we do know this is probably the first time for some of you to be using Zoom. So if you do have any queries or you're struggling with something, you can use the chat feature as well to send us a message. But using the chat feature also to ask some of your burning questions as we're going through this, and we'll answer from there as well. What I do lastly request is that if you go to participants, and you'll see your name there, your profile. If you can click on it and rename it with your first name and the country that you're coming from so that it helps us. We have girls here from South Africa, Botswana, and Namibia. So really interesting to learn from each of you as well and be part of this global network. So I'll give you a minute. If you can locate it, let me know if you're having any challenges. Great, so it's fine if you just have your first name and the country that you're coming from. Okay, as you do that, I'm going through some of the safe space rules. So at the moment, we really want to make this place clear. You got your hand up? Priya, you can unmute and then let us know if you have a question.
Good morning.
Morning.
How are you doing?
Good.
I have a question about the mining industry. Like, I'm doing subjects like BE, CAT, and biology. I used to do physics, biology, and CAT, but then when I didn't do really good in physics, so I had to leave that subject and I changed it to BE. So currently I'm doing BE, biology, and CAT. So I just want to know what career fields are there in the mining industry for under the category of these subjects.
Okay, cool. And thanks for the question. We'll get to it as well. I'm going to do a quick introduction and then we can get some of our experts to talk to you about it as well. Okay, So as I said, safe space rules is we're really about engaging and idea sharing. So I'm happy for everybody to engage. Unmute yourself when you want to speak. Don't be scared as well. We always say there's no stupid questions, so feel free to ask because most likely someone else is thinking the same thing and they are hoping someone asks the question for them. And part of this 1.5 hours is really about having fun and understanding how big engineering is. So yes, happy and comfortable. In terms of what this next 1.5 hours looks like, so the first minutes is an introduction. Okay, I'm gonna mute you a bit, Sarah, just so we don't have background noise. We're gonna do a quick introduction and context around engineering and tech. Then we're gonna learn from some of our engineering and technology guests. So they come mainly from the mining industry today, but really around your questions can be related to their specific engineering disciplines, or it can be even if you want to be an aeronautical engineer, industrial engineer. We do have insights and can share information and also direct you in the right path, even post this call. So we're going to spend a few minutes speaking to them, and then thereafter we're going to have an open Q&A session where burning questions like the one Priya has asked can be asked to either one or all of the have in the call. And then in the last 5 minutes, we're really going to start closing off and understanding what's the next key actions. As we said, for many know that this is the first time you've been part of Women, and we welcome you to the community. And our goal is to go on this journey with you as you pursue careers and interests in engineering and technology. So think about it for being with us for the next 10 years, right? And this is your entry to it. And so I'm starting with a quick introduction to the world of engineering and technology. So you'll see we have a mind map, and in the mind map it shows some of the key engineering disciplines you hear about, right? So mechanical engineer, chemical, civil, electrical. These engineering fields in itself also have even more engineering type specializations. And so the world of engineering and technology and becoming an engineer or playing in the technology space is really so far and wide. And it's also very interconnected. And that's what you're going to learn from some of our engineers here today, right? And so what are engineers for those that are maybe still questioning that? And so we consider ourselves futurists, strategists, artists. We're a mixture of artists, scientists, and physics. And for us as engineers, we typically plan for big timelines. So sometimes even 50 to 100 years. So think about everything around you, what's designed. So the buildings, the infrastructure, the jewelry you're wearing has been mined from gold or diamonds. And so as engineers, we play in so many fields, right? And some of those include, example, 3D printing. So this house was 3D printed in 48 hours. So compare that to how long it typically takes us to build a house, right? And this is what technology can do. We also have new transportation systems. So this is a drone. And some things we also do as engineers is fun. So these are pictures of closets and also changing mirrors in stores right now in America, where you don't have to even take out your clothes to see what the clothes in the shop looks like, right? So on the left-hand side is the lady in her clothes that she's actually wearing, and then she can see herself in some of the clothes reflected back to her based on what's in the shop. So imagine all the time saved from taking out your clothes and trying so many. And on the left-hand side is a personal closet. So imagine having a smart closet that can tell you what you've got that day, whether it's school or a party or just relaxing, and then giving you suggestions based on what clothes you have in your closet. We're also talking about artificial intelligence, so robots and how they play a big role in the way we are moving in the world right now. Biotechnology, right? So thinking about how we can use organics or organisms. So Priya recently just spoke about biology. Even now is how do we use living organisms to help us develop new technology? Even now with COVID, right, the vaccine, did you know one of the first vaccines, the Oxford vaccine, was actually developed by a woman in the technology and science space as well. So We're doing a lot of amazing things, and also data mining. So all this data we collect, being on Facebook, being on Instagram, on TikTok, companies are taking that information about you and making their devices and apps even better based on what you want and your preferences. And some of the bigger things, how many hands up is how many of you want to go to Mars, right? And so in the next 10 years, we do believe we're going to be landing on Mars, and now your holidays are going to be on different planets and traveling to the moon. And as engineers and technologists and people in these spaces, this is what's happening. And so it's so many amazing things that are happening at once, and so much to choose from, right? And that's why we have some amazing speakers today. And so today, yes, some of our speakers play a big role within the mining industry, but they've worked and also been part of different aspects in different countries. So some of our engineers come from Botswana and Namibia and South Africa, and also working in the different countries as well. So we're gonna hear a bit from them. We have Leseko. She's a geotechnical engineer. Anyone want to guess what a geotechnical engineer does? Any guesses? I see some smiles, so I see that you more or less. So geotechnical involves dealing with the ground and making our mines safe. Then we have Carmen, who's a mechanical engineer, and she's working on developing a vessel to mine diamonds from the ocean. And then we have Seppo and Caledonia, which is an energy engineer, and then Mabuku, who's a mechanical engineer as well, working on a mine. And so I'm going to stop my presentation right now, and we're going to get to meet some of them. So, Carmen, are you online?
I am here.
Great. So, Carmen, can you give us a quick introduction of yourself, where you're from, and what is your engineering background, briefly in one line?
Okay. Good morning, everyone. I'm Carmen Reif. I'm from Debmarine, Namibia, and as Aditi just mentioned, I'm currently working on a project for Debmarine, Namibia. So I'm actually currently based in Cape Town. We are building a mining vessel to join our fleet of ships that mine diamonds offshore along the coast of Namibia. So that's my background at the moment. My specific role at the moment is construction and fabrication engineer. So I spend most of my time on a construction site. Thanks.
Great, thanks, Carmen. Next, Leseko, do you want to go?
Hello, I'm Leseko Queen. I am from Botswana, but I'm currently working in South Africa, Venetia Mine. Currently interesting because it's both open pit and underground. So we are building an underground mine so that we can continue mining underground when the pit comes to an end. My role as a geotech engineer in the underground space is that the excavations that we do represent the mine.
Great, thanks, Leseko. Next, we have Seppo.
I'm here.
Did you say Tepo Aditi? I hope you did. My name is Tepo Tambani. I'm a mining engineer in training. I'm in Norapa currently in Botswana. My educational background is I've got a mining degree or undergraduate degree in mining engineering and a postgraduate in geotechnical engineering. Thank you.
Great, and next we have Caledonia.
Everyone, my name is Gileadile Ruda. I am an energy engineer. My educational background is I also have an undergraduate degree in energy engineering. I'm currently based in Botswana in the capital city. And I also founded a trust called Women in Energy.
Great, thanks, Caledonia. And lastly, we have Mabuku.
Hi everyone, my name is Mabuku. I am a mechanical engineer. I work for Botswana Diamond Mining Company. I am based in Orapa, which is a mining town in the central part of Botswana. Thank you.
Great, thanks ladies. And I think it's already sounding so exciting. Sarah, I see your hand is up. Do you want to ask a question right now? Hi, Sarah. And Priya, is your hand up from the last time, or do you have another question? Okay, cool. I think we're going to continue. And if you have any questions while we are speaking to our engineers, feel free to put it in the chat as well, and we'll definitely take it up as we're talking, right? So thank you again, engineers. It's an honor to have you here. And for us, it's really interesting to learn more about what you do on a daily basis. We hear so much about different types of engineering, but really to understand, what do you actually do as an engineer, right? And so my first question in this session, so I'm going to ask you two questions, and the first one will go across the board, and each of you can answer. The first one is, what does a typical day look like for you? And so what problems do you solve as a geotechnical engineer, as a mechanical engineer? Take us through your day and some of the problems that you get to solve as well over your career path. So I'm going to start with Mabuku. Yeah, take us through your day.
Hi. Yes, so I currently work as a business improvement manager, and basically my role is to implement systems that improve our performance. So in mining, we have a lot of equipment. We have trucks, we have crushers, we have screens. So we have to have very good planning systems so that we can take care of the equipment and it runs well so that we can produce the diamonds that we produce. So typically, each morning I look at how well we are doing in terms of the maintenance that we do. Are we doing it in good time? I look at the statistics. I also look at the systems that we are implementing. Are we on track with implementation? So sometimes I'll be sitting on my own in the office looking at our statistics in terms of what we are doing, or I will be in a project review meeting and with the teams discussing and coming up with solutions. If we are implementing a system, are we at the stage that we are supposed to be? Is the system working? Are people able to use it? I'm not sure how I'm doing for time. I did see. Okay, so sometimes I will go into the mine and engage with the teams that are working directly on the equipment. What procedures that are they using? Do they have everything that they need? So it is essentially just to make sure that we are doing the work that we need to be doing to keep the mine running.
Great. And that means some of the machinery is in the billions of rands, right? So you've got a lot of risk to handle.
Yes, it's very expensive machinery. For example, a truck typically costs maybe 30 million pula, and for example, at Orapa, we've got about 30 of those. So it's a lot of equipment to keep organized. Yeah. So I help the teams with that.
Great. And let's hear a little bit from Caledonia now. What do you do, Caledonia, as an energy engineer?
All right. Well, I work for a renewable energy company, primarily focused on solar energy. So our day-to-day looks like implementing solar energy systems, either hybrid, which is tapping from the national power grid, as well as having your solar produce power from the sun. And we implement these systems on residences, our houses, on lodges, and on schools that are off the grid and that are remote, in order to have access to power. So a day-to-day typically looks like a client calling in. We'll ask them what their needs are, their energy consumers in their house, what is consuming a lot of energy, such that, because every solar energy system is, you know, is very specific to your needs. You won't get, you know, a solar system looking exactly like the one at your neighbors, because some people, you know, live there full time. Some people want the system at their farm and they only go there on weekends. So they're going to differ. And so with solar energy, when you design a system, you want it to be specific to the client's needs, such that you're not overproducing, which will be very costly for them, or underproducing, and, you know, sometimes they won't be able to have power. And you know, we know that, you know, solar, we're trying to drift away from our, you know, what we've been using naturally, which is, you know, coal. We're trying to go cleaner. Yes. So that's typically what my day looks like. I don't know if I covered enough of that.
Yes, definitely. And we're going to definitely delve deeper on what you do. I see questions coming in already, and we're going to deal with them just now. Let's go to Stepo. Stepo, tell us what happens as a mining engineer.
Well, as I mentioned, I'm a mining engineer in training. So unfortunately, in our path, you don't just graduate and next day you're a mining engineer, that you have to go through a development program to be a certified and practicing mining engineer. So my program involves experiencing the different parts of the mining cycle and at various organizational levels. So to begin with, I started with being an operator, like learning how to use the machines that Mabuku was talking about, and then going on to being a supervisor of those machines. So currently I'm a shift coordinator. So I supervise an entire shift. So my day is me. First of all, my shift consists of about 70 people, 70 of which I am the youngest, and one of 3 women. So my role, or day-to-day, is to ensure continuous production of our mining diamonds, because Botswana runs a continuous production operation. So I deal between making sure that our machines are available to use and that there's people to man those machines, and also making sure that we're working in a safe environment. So that consists of a whole spectrum of different challenges every day, but yet I say different, but most of the time those challenges are consistent in such a way that no day is the same, but it's consistent. I mean, I don't know how to describe it, except that you're always dealing with something. You're always problem solving, whether you're dealing with people management, or you're dealing with machine availability, or you're dealing with the natural rocks that we're trying to feed to the crusher, or it's just a whole world of, you know, mining is just amazing, to be fair. But that's what I do on a daily basis. It's just to make sure that my shift is running smoothly and cleaning, and we have a good production at the end of the day.
Great, that sounds really interesting. We're going to find out more. Carmen, as a mechanical engineer, a day in your life and the type of work that you do.
Thanks. As mentioned briefly earlier, at the moment I'm in the project space. So although a mechanical engineer, I'm currently more in a construction role. So my role as a fabrication and construction engineer revolves around being a link between the contractors that are building the plant, the project, and all of the other subcontractors that make up the whole project. So it's a massive project with all sorts of different companies coming together to produce a functioning whole. So you've got your electrical contractors and your steel work contractors, and as a client, it's your role to sort of engage all of them and make sure that everyone is aligned and working towards the timeline. So briefly, I would arrive on site at 7. We have a safety meeting every morning, which is also a very, very important aspect of all types of engineering. So that should be front and foremost in every consideration that you have as an engineer. You've got a huge amount of responsibility. And then I'll try and do the more challenging tasks in the morning, so deal with any technical queries that the contractors might have before I engage in meetings and those type of things in the afternoon. Another very important aspect of my role is ensuring a technically sound product and a product of high quality. So I would typically go and check whether things are actually built as per drawing and per design. So that's typically what I do in my day. Thanks.
Even more exciting. Leseko, as a mining, while working on a mine as a geotechnical engineer, can you tell us more?
Hello, yes. As a geotechnical engineer, your role changes depending on the stage at which the mine is at that you're operating in. But from the design stage, the bigger input of a geotechnical engineer is to ensure that we find a stability point. As a human, your stability point is to stand on 2 feet. So everything has an angle at which is stable. So essentially that's what we do to make sure that when Tsepo as a miner is mining, it's safe, because as Carmen says, we want everyone to go back home to their family and safely. And as DPS and Anglo, we currently striving towards zero harm. We don't want to harm anyone at work. So that's the biggest input as a geotechnical engineer. My current role and day-to-day is very interesting. Like I said, we are building a new mine. So it's in between stages. We are not yet at full production. We are not only a project. We are going towards full production. So it changes every day. That means my day runs between design and implementation and monitoring. I have a design that I want a miner to execute. He's currently executing. I go check the face, and then I come back to optimize, and we continue that way. And the way we do that is we collect data about the rock itself. There's a lot that you can read out of a rock, believe it or not. So we take that data out of the rock to design its stable point, and also to say, okay, it doesn't seem stable, therefore we need to support it this way, because essentially it needs to stand for the number of years that we mine. And we do mine for over 50 years. For the guys from Botswana, BCL has started in 1960 something. It closed in 2008. Venetia is gonna go on up to 2040 something. So that's the scale of which you need stability in your mining operations.
Sounds very exciting. And again, it's to remind everybody is that you're all working predominantly in diamond mines, right? So we typically see all the shiny jewelry in the amazing catalogs and on Instagram all the time. And you're the people that are really making it happen in terms of taking it out from the ground all the way to getting it to the shiny jewelry and many other applications that we use diamonds for as well. And I see a lot of questions coming in, so we are going to rush to that part. But lastly, a second question from my side, and I think this relates a lot to the girls that are here on the call right now. And we're going to go in reverse. So Leseko, we're going to stick with you right now. Is what is one of your earliest memories of wanting to pursue a career in engineering and technology? Just something that sparked your interest, or something that was memorable for you that made you realize this is the career that I want to get into?
Okay, I'm not gonna lie and say I have a date. I grew up in a family of men. I'm an only daughter in my family. And everything that I did was male influenced, because there were more males than females. Oh, sorry, was I on mute the whole time?
No, we can hear you.
Okay, so everything that I did.
Leseko, maybe can you just start again?
Can you hear me now? Okay, so I was saying, I'm not gonna lie and say I have a specific date where I had a light bulb moment. I grew up as an only girl, and everything that I did was more male dominated, male populated, and male influenced. So even the career options that I got to see growing up were almost always male, you know, back then where there were so-called female roles and male roles. So I saw more of male roles and they got exciting. I didn't mind them, they were exciting. I have always changed between the different kinds of engineering growing up. I wanted to be a lawyer at some point. I did my first year at University of Botswana in BSc, but I wanted to do mechanical engineering. I couldn't. I ended up in geology out of luck because everything else that I got advice about didn't click with me. But also at that point, and even still now, STEM subjects are important or were advertised more, you know, especially in Botswana, which is a diamond country. I have never paid a cent for my school fees. It felt like also from a patriot point of view to say, I can finally give back.
Great. Like, I think a lot of girls here can relate as well. And we'd love to hear from you just now. Carmen, from your side, what was those defining moments that made you realize this is a career I'd like to go into?
Thanks. Yes, you know, it never was completely obvious from the start. My father is a mechanical engineer, so that greatly influenced my decision, definitely. Because I was always curious about what he does and had huge respect for my father as a person. So I think I always had that curiosity to want to be able to do what he does. And then also just wanting to be independent and I suppose also wanting to prove a point that I as a lady can do exactly the same as a male counterpart. So that those were influences. And then in the end, I think it was just, it seemed quite clear that STEM is the way to go and that engineering just opens so many doors. So I never regretted my decision to go into engineering.
Great. Seppo, is it a similar story for you?
No, my story is, because I just remembered something when you showed the mind map of the connecting careers. So, well, how I got interested in STEM was that initially I would say that I was always smart in school. So I knew that smart people became doctors. So that's the answer I always gave when people asked me what I wanted to do. And I'm talking about when I was still in like standard 7 and such. So my mom worked in Botswana as well before, but she worked in stores or the purchasing department. But I'd always see her going to work in heels and then she'd come back wearing like these big shoes, like safety boots. And I'd be like, how? Where's the connection? So that's how I ended up finding out what it is that Botswana does. And then, okay, mining, all right. But then the funny thing is that we had an encyclopedia, like we had a whole shelf of encyclopedias with 27 volumes, I think, for every letter. And I remember opening like the like, what do you call it? Like the glossary, there's a glossary book. And I said, you know what? I'm going to open this book, whichever word, or whichever page I come across and whatever field that I see is what I'll study. Because I couldn't decide anymore that what is it that I want to do. And the first career or the first field I saw was archaeology. I'm like, okay, no, okay, let's do 3 tries. I don't remember the second one, but I know that the third one was metallurgy. And that was when I was in standard 7. So I actually pursued metallurgy when I got to university. Then when I got there and I saw that there was a different type of metallurgy offered. I studied in the UK. It was a different metallurgy that I wanted to do, to how I'd want to, like I knew that I wanted to come back to Botswana and work for Botswana, you know. So the metallurgy that was offered in school was not in line with what I could do back home. So eventually I did a career change right then, but I still wanted to do something in mining. And I was just racking my brain as to figure out what it is that I'd want to do in mining. And then I was like, okay, you know what about just doing mining engineering at its core? So that's how I ended up in my career designation today.
Great. And I just see a question, maybe we answer it now. So Lydia's asking, what is metallurgical engineering about? So could you give us just a brief overview of that?
Metallurgy is processing, right? So there's two types. There's processing when you, like the beginning stages of processing, like coming up with, like putting together the atoms and creating something. So that's the type of engineering, that's the type of metallurgy that I was talking about that was offered in the UK. And then there's the processing part. Now you're taking something that's already in existence and extracting something from it. So that's, if you can imagine what mining is, you're taking a rock and trying to get diamonds out of it, or trying to get an ore out of it. So that's what I would just try to sum up metallurgy into, that you're trying to extract. It's a processing degree or a processing field where you're trying to get one thing and convert it to something else.
Yeah, perfect. And it's always saying that from a piece of rock contains sand, but it also contains a lot of important and valuable minerals. And the goal of metallurgy is to understand how can you extract as much of that valuable materials out of the not so valuable ground as well. Thanks, Sebo. I'm going to go quickly to Caledonia. What's your first memories of why you want to go into your career?
My story is quite similar to Lesero's. I also grew up in an all-boys family. I have 3 older brothers. Spent a lot of time with them, so I believe a bit of the influence came from there. But going into specifically energy engineering, I really just saw something new that, you know, I didn't know what it was, and I thought, and I like to explore new things. So I went into energy engineering. My first year and my second year were actually a bit blind. All I knew was that I wanted to focus more on the sciences rather than the businesses, because I believe that, you know, the businesses and accounting were a bit more structured, and engineering is this field that you are, you know, you problem solve it constantly every day. It's consistent, but you're always, you know, finding a solution. And it was very interesting for me. So I got into specifically renewable energy because it was something different and something new, something I hadn't heard of or was exposed to in high school. And I took the challenge, and I'm, you know, enjoying it and very passionate about it right now.
We're going to hear more from you just now as well. Mabuku, lastly, from your side?
I think also same as some of the other ladies, it wasn't a specific moment as such. And growing up, you know, I read a lot, and sometimes I read a book about a lawyer and I wanted to be a lawyer. I would read a book about a pilot, I wanted to be a pilot. But as I was going through school in secondary, it just became obvious that I was so great at maths and sciences, and I started looking at those career options in terms of engineering, medicine, you know, those science-based, because I believed I could do well in those, and I really, really enjoyed my maths. Also, you know, as a woman, there was this drive towards doing something different, doing something that women don't traditionally do. So I was curious about it, and the idea of actually designing machines, that also really excited me. So the opportunity came with the Botswana scholarship, so I took it. So it was a journey of, you know, my thoughts developing and opportunities coming together.
I was going to say, it's great to hear so diverse stories and how everybody's come up to where they are right now from different thinking perspectives as well. So thanks everybody for sharing, and it's amazing stories setting us up for the next session which you're going into. And I see the chat session, section is going crazy with a lot of questions. But before we go to some of those questions, is there any girls that would want to unmute yourself and ask some of your burning questions directly? So this is your opportunity. I see Denaria has unmuted. Do you have a question? Okay, we're going to come back. So just to give everybody a heads up, this section, so from now till 20, is really about answering some of your burning questions. And I see we have so much, so we might not be able to get through all of them, but we're going to be able to give you a chance to ask directly. So you're happy for you to unmute, or we're going to go straight to some of the chat questions. So if you want to ask a question, please raise your hand. Again, for those who have just joined, to raise your hand, you click on participants and you will see your name. Can you please rename your handle? You can do that by clicking more with your first name and hopefully which country you come from. I see example Amy, who's done Botswana, and Angelica, who's from Namibia. So it helps us to know where you're coming from, as well as to raise your hand. If you click more, it will see an option to raise your hand, or else you can just unmute and we'll pick that up as well. Okay, so just to give everybody a heads up, and maybe let's start. So I see one of the earlier questions that we've had in the group here is, what is the best part about being an engineer? So in one line, engineers, what's the best part about your job?
Diversity. There are no 2 days that are the same.
Caledonia, from your side?
Creating solutions, problem solving, it keeps your mind alert all the time. That's the best part.
Great. And Mabuko?
Similar, you're dealing with complex problems, so you're never bored. And also the impact, for example, on the economy that the work that we do has.
Great. Carmen, do you want to share quickly?
I like the fact that I'm not sitting in front of my computer all day. I get to be outside. That's something I really enjoy.
Great. And am I missing Seppo? Did you answer?
Like the Sora said, no 2 days are the same. I mean, if I tell you now that I haven't slept, I just knocked off at about past 8 and I'm still running. It's amazing. You're running on adrenaline, basically.
Certainly a superhero. Cool. And some of the other questions. So Priya, I see your hand is up. Do you want to ask a question?
I had a question on the mining industry. I want to know more about it, because then the subjects I'm doing, as I said, I'm confused. I don't know which career to go for, which subjects to choose in university. And yeah, I need more information on the different careers or fields in the mining industry.
Great. And Priya, where are you based?
I live in Messina in South Africa. Right now I'm in matric, grade 12. Yeah, so I'm planning to go into the mining industry, but I am not really sure which field to enter, because then the subjects I'm doing is BE, biology, as I said, and CAT. Yeah, those are the subjects. So I just want to know which career will I get under those subjects.
Okay, perfect. I think I'm going to Leseko to answer, but also just to give everybody else a heads up. So within the engineering space, there's multiple roles that you can play, right? So typically, and I will share some more information on the WhatsApp group, you can have an engineer who goes to university. You have a technician who would go to like a university of technology. And then you have an artisan, which would go to what would be called a Tibet college. And all three roles, which I'm talking very high level major, is they vary in terms of how theoretical versus how practical your work is within those in engineering and technology. And so typically to go to university, you do need mathematics or pure mathematics in South Africa and physics. But as you go into University of Technology, where the work is more practical, I don't think the requirement for maths and science is as heavy. And then as an artisan as well, I definitely think that's where you become more practical on site. We have some engineers, some technicians called A&I technicians, for example, that study at Tibet, where I would assume some of the subjects you're pursuing would be more applicable. And if you are more attuned to doing more practical work versus trying to sit behind a computer for most of your day, trying to draw up things from scratch. But Lesego, maybe from your side, would you want to add to that as well?
Yeah, but I'll speak from the Botswana angle because I studied in Botswana. So, but like Aditi says, it's too diverse to answer in 5 minutes. The careers are too many. But on overall, if you want to do a degree course, you either start as a Bachelor of Science, which requires maths and sciences. You start at the Faculty of Engineering, or you go to the BUST University for the guys in Botswana also. And then for technicians, there are different technical colleges, or there are straightforward training programs at the mines themselves, especially for lower qualification like your certificates and diplomas. They can be those programs that would take longer time. But most of them have a basis requirement of maths and sciences with I think it's a D, correct me Tsepo if I'm wrong, with at least a D pass at your grade 12. But they also accumulate the number of points. Those grades A, B, C, D have a certain number of points that are required, that are associated with them. And there's a minimum number of points that you require out of 6 subjects for you to enter a certain course.
Great, thanks, Lesego. And Priya, since you are based in Messina, we work very closely with the De Beers team in Messina. To give everybody else context, Messina is a mining town, and the diamond mine is very close by. So we can connect you post this call to the De Beers team to really get to know a little more from them as well. And I'm pretty sure everybody would be happy to share more information.
Yes,
and I'm in Messina.
Yes, and Lesego's in Messina, so maybe we can set up a one-on-one there as well. So great. I see I'm going to go through some other questions, but Marcia, I see you on the WhatsApp group as well. Really excited. Anything you'd like to share?
Okay, thank you, Amesha and Messina. So my question is, because engineering is predominantly for male, how does it feel when you're a female engineer? How does it feel? Do you feel pressurized that you have to work twice as what male does just to prove that you can be able to do it as a female engineer? Does it pressurize you? Thank you.
Great. Anyone? Let's go with one person to pick an answer. Seppo, do you want to talk?
It's a good question, but in this regard, like, you have to be sure of yourself, first of all. There is no job that will ever require you to do more than somebody else just based on your gender. Your gender is not a disability, for one thing. Never look at it as if it's, you have to work harder than or lift heavier stuff than your male counterpart. It's just whereby, because we work in a male-dominated industry, they have a different way of thinking or different way of how they would do things. They understand each other better. So if they, in the mining industry, we have the men are more robust and they're more forceful in the instructions or the requirements that they have on a daily basis. But you being a woman, you have a softer voice. But at the end of the day, it's the words that you say or the instructions that you give are no different. It's just that you have to be more assertive to get it heard than your male counterpart just because they relate better. But in essence, don't put yourself through any pressure to think you have to change or be more manly to be an engineer in our industry.
Thank you so much.
Great, and I think contributing to SEPA as well is that this is really the reason why women operate as well, right? Is we opening these spaces up so that gender doesn't become an issue, is that we can all do the same things and always also understand how do our individual personalities and characteristics add to the bigger picture. So as a woman right now is, yes, there's certain things we can't do as men, but there's also certain things men can't do as women, right? And so how do we become more diverse within engineering so that each of us can contribute where we can? So thanks for that question, Marsha, and we'll definitely follow up. Liseko, I see you got your hand up as well.
No, I didn't, but I could comment something similar to say, Mesha, please, there's nothing that says it's a man's career. You are as capable. If we take it to a home situation, there's a reason a family is made of a man and a wife. They get to complement one another. The more the diverse the team, the more the successful the team, almost all the time. You don't have to be a man. You have to be fiercely a woman, if anything.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Cool. I see also Liseko. There's another Liseko in Botswana that's put her hand up. Liseko from Botswana, do you want to answer? Steve?
Yes, I'd like to ask a question to the mining engineers. What are the future prospects about the market here in Botswana for mining engineering? Looking at that, diamonds are getting less and less. Do they believe that in nearly 5 or 10 years from now, will there still be a market for that?
I see the excitement. Sepo,
I'll give it to Liseko to answer this one.
I have to answer this one because, like I said, I get to tell Sepo what to do as a mining engineer. There's still a lot. Botswana is unexplored by comparison with the other countries out in the world. So unless something drastically changes in the economics, Botswana is unexplored. If we were to talk Botswana resources, we're still looking at another, maybe the third generation from you are the ones we have to start thinking about what else can they do. But yes, we are very far. The Botswana open pit that is currently running is still gonna go close to 2040.
Liseko, you've gone on mute.
When did I go on mute? I don't know what I said. I say the Botswana open pit as an example. The current mining is gonna go up to around 2035, 37, close to 2040, and that's just the open pit. We have just started explorations to go underground, and that's just the Botswana. If I go into coal and other resources out in Botswana, Botswana is a virgin ground compared to all the other countries around us. South Africa started mining in the 1800s. It's still mining.
Mm-hmm. And a lot of resources. The goal is how do we mine sustainably, right? And I think just adding to that, I think the BS globally, as well as many other mining organizations, the key discussions right now for people in the mining industry is really how do we create more sustainability? And I'm pretty sure a lot of you girls on the call are worried about environmental concerns, social concerns as well, and working within the engineering space is looking at sustainability over the long term, and that is where many of you can play roles as well. I'm going to go through, thanks Liseko for that question. Hopefully it answers, giving you the answer you're looking for. I see in the chat there's a number of questions about different engineering disciplines, and maybe we can just quickly spend 2 or 3 minutes going through some of them. So in terms of Lydia is asking, what is a mechatronic engineer? Carmen, since you're closest to mechanical, do you want to explain that in terms of any differences or similarities?
I can certainly try. So at Varsity, we actually had quite a lot of courses together with the mechatronics engineers. They just go into a little bit more of the electronic side. So they'll typically have a few more electronics courses and programming. We also had programming, but they just focus on it a bit more in later years. But I mean, the way the world is going, I guess mechatronics is a sensible direction to choose if you are comparing the two. In the end, it's more of a preference thing. Do you enjoy working with big machinery and the more mechanical side of it, or the more programming side of it?
And it's a lot to do with moving into robotics as well, from my understanding, right? So it's, Lydia, it's adding to, I see there's a question later in the chat as well around what is interdisciplinary engineering. So as we mentioned, centuries ago when engineering first started, there was key engineering disciplines like mechanical, civil. Civil is one of the oldest engineering from this time man has started. So interdisciplinary engineering right now is showcasing how engineers can really work on different specializations and bring that together, and how mechatronic is a combination of mechanical and electrical work as well. So very specialized in it. That's also, thanks Carmen for answering. I see there's a question around software engineering. So what field is best in software engineering? Software engineering's got to deal with a lot of, from my understanding, creating, designing applications and a lot of coding. What you see literally now on the screen is where software engineers come up with in terms of design. So there's talk about how software engineers can go into artificial intelligence, for example, a vast number of fields. So we will share more information on that. I see a question on what is civil engineering. So civil engineers is, we love to say everything around you that you can see in terms of a structure, and also things that you can't see. So getting light to your house, getting water to your house, building and construction is really what civil engineering is about. We also work very much in the environmental space. So how do we create everything around you that's man-made without damaging natural spaces as much as well? So I see that's some of the key ones that's coming. Another interesting question from Lydia is, do engineers enjoy a social life, spending time with family and friends? Two engineers. Anyone would like to pick up the hand and answer? Okay, I'm going to choose Mabuku from your side.
Oh yeah, I think Tapo mentioned it earlier. She just came out of the mine. So I also spent a lot of time in the mine in my earlier days in the career when I was working in maintenance, directly supervising the crews who do the maintenance work. So typically when equipment stops, we really need to solve that quickly. So you spend a lot of time in the mine. But yes, you have to try to come up with a balance and to make sure that you have time for your family. So actually now all the mines and all the big companies are working to try to ensure that their employees have a work-life balance. So yes, engineers have family life and all of the things that they have to be healthy and happy.
Sorry. Just mute Teresa. Okay, thanks for that. Anyone else wants to add before we move? Because I do know work-life balance is a big discussion in general. Anyone else wants to contribute?
I'll just be adding on what Mabuku said to say our career titles say engineers, but I'm a person first, I'm a woman first, I'm a girl first. So I like to have fun as much as the next girl.
And remember, engineering is very much it's a job also at the end of the day, so it's not your entire life, and this is different phases in your life. And studying engineering or technology course is generally very tedious and requires a lot of study time, but that's just a specific phase in your life, right? You're going to have the rest of your life also to enjoy many other phases. So I do know it's normally a big concern for girls in particular, but really to break that stereotype that, you know, you like partying and you also have family and you enjoy doing many other things as well. I see a lot of hands coming up. And Yoleti, your hand's been up for a while. Do you want to ask a question? Hey.
Hello everyone. I do have a question. I wanted to ask if there is bursaries or internship that that are available in like high school level, instead of like kind of like encouraging us in engineering industry. And then if they are, what are they? And then what are their requirements? Because firstly, I want to just thank you for this opportunity, for giving us this information about engineering. However, we want to keep this, this friendship or partnership with you. So like, what are they, do you guys have like bursaries or internship or programs that will kind of like motivate us into this engineering industry? Thank you.
Great question, Enolete, and thank you for the positive words as well. I think that helps all of us on this call. In terms of bursaries and applications, there's so many out there, and I think especially right now in the current environment within South Africa, Namibia, and Botswana is there is a lot of focus on getting more girls into engineering and technology careers. And so we will definitely be sharing different platforms so you can find bursaries. I think the BS offers a number of bursaries in all 3 countries, but beyond the BS, there's every major organization as well also has their various bursary schemes, depending on what engineering discipline you want to go into. So part of being part of this community now is post this in our Girl-Eng group on WhatsApp. You can share what interests you have, and we can definitely help you look for different bursary options as well. Okay, I see Asma, your hand's been up for a while. Do you want to ask your question?
Yes. Okay. I'm more interested in civil engineering, particularly in architecture. So I just want to ask, what are the subjects that qualify for being an architect? Because at school I do design and technology, which I think can help in architecture. And also, I would like to know which will be the best school to study architecture. That's all.
Hey, thanks. We lost you for a bit at the end, but my understanding is just a key difference between civil engineering and architecture. So typically they're very similar, but there is key differences. So when you look at a building, for example, an architect would have designed the aesthetic part of the building. So how does the building look, or what does its key functions are for? And then a civil engineer comes in and all those pieces of how does it actually stand up? So you might know there's some experiments, you know, when you do with the spaghetti and marshmallows and you try to build a structure, that's where the engineer comes in. We are responsible for really designing how strong the building needs to be. So think about bridges and how often cars go over it. So we focus more on the structural side, and then the architect focuses more on the design side of how pretty it should look, right? In terms of career, in terms of subjects at school, doing engineering, design, drawing in school really does help, but it's also not critical if you haven't done it. For architecture, which is considered less science, more art, You would need to, in terms of signing up or applying to university, will require to be able to submit a portfolio with different designs that you've done already, and there'll be guidelines for that. Whereas in civil engineering, it's more around the importance of your maths and science as well, and the physics part of it. So hopefully that gives you some idea the differences between architecture and civil engineering. Happy to post this as well on more information about that. Great, thanks Asma. And then next we have Precious on with the raised hand. Precious, do you want to unmute?
So, my name is Precious and I wanted to ask about it.
Go ahead.
Sorry?
You can go ahead with your question.
So, I wanted to know the disadvantages and advantages in engineering. That's it.
Okay, anybody wants to share in their work, what's the advantages and disadvantages of being in engineering? Niseko?
I'll go. I've been in this industry for 13 years now. So for me, like I said, the biggest advantage is the diversity. It's not a monotonous job. Fun fact, underground mine, everything, absolutely everything that is underground is man-made. So there's no bigger engineering structure than an underground mine, including the air you breathe has been brought down by a man. It's man-made. So I don't think there's any field that can boast that it gets any more exciting than that. So ladies, please come over.
What then the biggest disadvantage?
And then on the disadvantage, I'm not sure if there's specific disadvantage to engineering. Everything has its downside, but the downside of engineering, like someone was asking earlier, is especially in the early part of your career, you need to put in more hours. At school, you put more hours. At work, during your 0 to 5 years, you put crazy hours. But because it's so interesting, I don't think you ever get the chance to sit down and ruminate, worry too much about it because of the fun. For me, it's fun.
Great, and I love how you note that engineering is fun, right? You really should have fun in your career, whichever career you do choose. Quickly, I see we have hands up, but I'm going to go through some of the chat questions as well. So Bonolo was asking, what if there's no cat in my school, but I want to do computer science? Computer science is a very versatile degree or qualification, Bonolo, and there's multiple spaces to go in it. I know Microsoft and similar companies right now investing a lot in developing graduates for computer science. So you don't have to have computer applied technologies, CAT, for anybody else wants to know, at school to go into computer science. But again, I think at the basis of all engineering and tech, it's around having good scores around maths and science as well. And even if you're not doing good in those subjects, there's always opportunities for improvement. And when you go into tertiary institutions, there are bridging courses for those as well. I see Shahida's asking what subjects do you need to become? Sorry. Anyone that's unmuted? Okay. Give a quick overview for any engineering and tech courses. Again, as I said, talking from university all the way to DeVet colleges, typically the understanding needs to be good in maths and science. And why so many of these institutions focus on that is because these subjects really teach you about how to apply yourself versus by hearting stuff, right? So when you do maths and science, it's out of problem. And that's what engineering tech is really about, is figuring out problems and finding solutions towards it, and why there's so much of emphasis on those subjects. So I think just answering that for everybody as well. I see, do I need physics to study computer science? Yes. How can one convince their parents to do a career in mining? Angelica, we're going to get to that question. What is an industrial engineer? So an industrial engineer, the idea is they design processes. So if you think about a factory, for example, there's various machines, and you try to figure out what's the best way to get a product out from raw material all the way to finished product. And so industrial engineers come up with the process for that to happen. And industrial engineers can work in multiple different engineering disciplines as well. Cool. So how do you keep up to date with developments in engineer? I'm going through some of the questions so we can try to answer, because there's quite a number. We've discussed challenges, electrical engineering, hard to study. I think everything's subjective, and if you are interested in it, Shahida, we can definitely talk about electrical engineering more, and what would be some of the difficulties, and I can connect you to some of those engineers as well. I see some hands up. Let's go back. Sibongile from South Africa, do you want to ask your question? Sibongile? Okay, I think we got a challenge. Seppo, I see your hands up. Do you want to contribute?
Yes. The question of do you need physics for a career in mining or a career in engineering? The thing about university, I think most or some universities offer a common year. Universities call it a different thing, but some offer what they call a common year, where you apply to go into a general course of engineering. Like you get exposed to the different types of engineering during this year, of which you're studying general subjects, but they expose you to what you can do, what you can get from those subjects if you decide to now hone in or be specific into it. So I think like most people, I think right now a lot of you are probably like scared that, okay, no, I'm not doing well in this subject, but I've got good grades in this subject. And then you need, immediately if I tell you that, no, you need physics, or you need to be an A student in physics, you're gonna already dismiss mining or dismiss whichever career that you want to do. But you can't give up at this stage. At this stage is you're just still learning how to learn. And then engineering, as Aditi said, teaches you how to be a problem solver. Our careers, the problems we face today or in our daily work are not problems that we were taught in university. It's something totally different. You're just learning how to now problem solve or give a solution or a possible solution to that problem or to that new problem. So I could just encourage you all to not give up or not to be too focused on the subjects that you're doing poorly in or the subjects that you're doing well in to make your decision into which engineering career that you want to go into. Just look at the universities that you're interested in and see what do they offer in terms of bridging the gap that you have between where you are now and where you want to go. Thank you.
Perfect answer, Seppo. And as we said, it's really about the basis of our careers in engineering and tech is about reiterating that it's problem solving, right? And how can you think about in your community? I think my one mission for everybody on this call is think about your neighborhood right now and some of the problems, whether it's the water pipe that's leaking or the lights not working or the data connectivity in the area is bad. What are some of those problems that you wish if you had the opportunity, you're going to solve, and then that's already becoming on the road towards engineering and technology. I see Anna Dizumbera here. She said, I thought I was the only one in Messina. Our group is full of girls from various areas. So Anna, if you want to connect with Priya as well, I think this is a great community now for you to connect and learn since you are based in Messina. And likewise for everybody else on the group as well, to find people within your community as well. An interesting question from Nakwanda is, discuss a time when the project didn't go as planned. So has anyone experienced a failure as an engineer in their project, and what did you have to go through?
I'll comment, but I'll leave out a lot of specifics.
Go ahead.
As geotech engineers, we are responsible for stability. All the mines that I've worked on, at some point or another, we had failures, like the whole part of the mine comes down and killing people. You know, we end up with, we call them fatalities, but essentially we end up killing people, something that we're really trying to work on. And the consequences range. In other countries, they will put you in jail if they find out that your design wasn't honed enough. So those were the consequences. But from those consequences, which are not so nice, we are learning also with all these coming in ways of work, data mining being one of them, robotics being one of them. We are learning a better way of doing it. It's still geotech engineering, but I need help from a robotics engineer. I need help from a data analyst, which makes my designs better. Therefore, the interdisciplinary interconnection of all engineers is getting better and better with age.
Perfect. And so also maybe just adding to that, Liseko, anyone else wants to add?
I think maybe from my side, on a more practical project side of it, I think that's another direction that might interest individuals, is going into project management, which then means when a project doesn't go as planned, means it's either running beyond budget or not on schedule. So there it becomes very important to manage your resources and manage your time. So that would be my contribution.
Great, thanks, Carmen. And I see a message here from Crystal. Crystal, I'm assuming you're from Namibia, and I see a lot of the girls online as well. So everyone from joining with Crystal Yankis, hi from our side, and it's good to see there's some people on the group here that they are joining in with a group of girls, and it's really amazing to see everybody join in the conversation as well. I think we got a few more minutes, so I'm going to go through some of the questions, but just lastly check in as well if any participants want to ask any of their burning questions or have their hands up. I see Johanna, you've got your hand up. Do you want to ask a question? Johanna, go ahead.
Okay, good morning. I'd like a career in food engineering, and I just wanted to know, like, what fields, what different types of careers are involved in food engineering, and what subjects do I need at school to get a career in that?
Great, thanks, Johanna. So maybe I can answer a bit of it, and anyone else wants to contribute. So within the food space, agriculture is typically a keyword that you'd use, and food engineering can range all the way from growing the actual crops and natural food towards now working in labs where they're creating artificial meat. So then you don't need to eat animals as much, as well as towards even right at the end basis around packaging food, right? So food engineering is a wide field, and one of the common spaces that people start in is called agricultural engineering or bioresources. So I always like to talk about, in the morning when most of us are eating our cereal, whether it's Kellogg's cornflakes or Cocoa Pops, we sit with the box and we read all the nutritional information in it. And to know that a lot of that information is actually not natural, and food engineers, agriculture engineers engineer the food that we eat so that all these nutrients can be infused in it. And I know a common example is when you have cornflakes and you crush it and then you add some water and some magnet, or you put a magnet towards it, and you can see the actual lead metal come out from the food. So that's where food engineers play exciting roles. I know currently they're working on creating artificial meat, so meat in the lab, so that you don't have to kill as many animals. And so, yeah, I think a great starting point if you want to research more is around agricultural and food engineering online. Does that help? Great, I see I've got 5 more minutes. Asma, question from your side?
Okay, my question is for all engineers. I just wanted to ask, do they know any Muslim engineers? And if they are, what do they say? Because we've gotten obligated for 5 prayers. So I just want to know, does that somehow interrupt them in any way? And also, the other question is that, do any of the engineers think of starting their own businesses? That's all.
Asma, those are amazing questions. And to answer those questions briefly from my side is, so our co-founder at Women, her name's Nadia Musaji, and she's a Muslim herself, and she's a civil engineer. So definitely, I don't think there's always space and environments where, irrespective of your culture or your gender, you can become an engineer. Definitely. Sorry, I see someone, there's some background noise. And then the second question, definitely around entrepreneurship. Something we do a lot within Women as well right now is helping women that are running their own businesses in engineering and tech. So definitely looking at the entrepreneurship route within the space as well. And I think that adds to the conversation for a lot of people who feel they might not be able to make it into university. You really don't need to have an engineering or tech qualification to play within engineering and tech, right? So very valid questions, and thank you for that, Asma. Anyone else wants to contribute, I think from our experts, around religion? Has it affected your job in any way?
I just want to contribute.
Yeah.
I have worked with a Muslim engineer. He's no longer with us at Botswana, but honestly, it didn't make much of a difference. We understood that there was food that he didn't eat. We understood that there was a time when he needed to pray. So if we were in a workshop and it was time to pray, we'd be like, let's all take a break anyway. So it really didn't make much difference. It's all about the contribution that you make to the work that we do. Thank you.
Great, thanks. Anyone else wants to add? I see we are running out of time. I see a last question here that we're gonna address. So 2 last questions. For those, Ashley, I think, has asked, she's in grade 9, and what subject should she consider? So in South Africa, when you go from grade 9 to grade 10, you have to make subject choices. And Ashley, from my side, I would recommend that you do choose mathematics and science, because it's such versatile subjects that even if you don't go into engineering and technology, you can use it in other spaces. Also, a recommendation is that a lot of higher learning education institutions prefer pure mathematics over. In South Africa, we do applied mathematics. So I always tell these to girls as well that getting 50% in pure mathematics is actually better than getting 100% in applied mathematics, in terms of opening yourself to more opportunities in terms of higher learning, right? So don't feel the pressure that if you're not achieving 80% in mathematics right now, then you shouldn't choose it. It does open up much more opportunities than taking the applied mathematics route, which you still can pursue careers, but it'll be more around Tibet colleges and technical universities versus the traditional universities as well. And likewise, with your maths, you can apply across all 3 boards as well. So that's the key question about subject choices. And then the last question from Angelica was around salary range for an engineer. So I know there's a whole discussion about engineers being rich and that whole thing about it. So if people are looking for a number, engineers, do you want to share? I think generally our guideline is that engineering is such a wide career space. So in traditional engineering spaces, engineers that do go to university typically start off with a higher salary, and that in South African terms can be anywhere from 12 to 15,000 all the way to 25,000 Rand a month even. So it sounds exciting when you're in the beginning stages. And then artisans do typically earn a little less than that. But artisans also qualify sooner in a year's time versus when you're in university and you got 3 years of studies, right? So there's so many considerations to take into account when considering and making a judgment on should I go into a career because of the salary. So in general, anyone in the engineering space typically does earn much more than other disciplines on average. But it also varies very much based on what type of engineer you are as well. But a starting point, I would say, is typically engineers who have gone to university start from anywhere between 12,000 all the way to 25,000 Rand in traditional roles. Anyone else, experts that want to contribute in terms of salaries and what does that look like? What was your starting salary, if you are comfortable sharing, when you first started working?
I started at 10, and that was more than 10 years ago. I started at 10,000.
Thanks, Luseka, for sharing. I think it gives you an idea, right? Is that salary shouldn't be the key judgment area, but it is a critical space for a lot of us, and engineering and technology is considered one of the higher earning spaces for professionals versus other career paths. Okay, I see there's so many questions. Angelica says, thank you so much for this opportunity. I really learned a lot, hoping for a face-to-face. Angelica, we do this typically, historically pre-COVID, we've done this in person and had 200 girls in a space in each country. We continue doing this until we can come back and see each other in person. And being part of the community right now is really what it is for us to keep you engaged and answer some of these questions. Thank you, experts. I see time is 2 minutes up, so I'm going to start rounding off. Thank you so much for the contribution you've made. We will be sharing snippets from these videos on our social media as well to share the knowledge beyond just the girls in this group. I see we've had between 55 on the call. So thank you everybody for joining. The conversation's going to continue. Post this, everybody has been added to a WhatsApp group, and experts, I will be in touch with you if you would like to be part of our Girl Eng group, where a lot of the questions we haven't been able to answer in this chat, we've noted it down, and we will add to that in the chat on WhatsApp as well. So questions that we haven't been able to answer, please don't despair. We're going to be able to answer, post this in the WhatsApp group as well. With that, key things, any from my side, I just want to check, is there any girls that would like to give a parting thought? Anyone? I see Marsha said she's really thankful for the session. Marsha, do you want to come online and just give a key insight? What stood out most for you on this call?
Can you please repeat the question?
I was going to say, in the chat, you said that this opportunity, you learned a lot. So I just want to hear from you. Any key insights that stood out for you? What did you learn and enjoy the most?
Okay, thank you so much for the question. You know, I have just learned that it is very much fascinating to be in engineering, and the most mechanical field, I really fell in love with it. I really love it because it deals with doing the tools, you know, a whole lot of things I've learned. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Great, thanks, Marsha, and I love the energy, and definitely hoping that we have a long journey together as well from women as well. Anybody else going once, going twice, that wants to share from their side? experts from your side. Khaled, I know you've been touching on a bit of stuff as well. How has the session been for you?
I think the session was excellent, and I wish for more and more sessions because there's so many questions, and I think we need to answer all of them. And I mean, my key, takeaway, speaking as a woman engineer, as entering into the engineering field, I'll just say, like the experts have been saying, be assertive. Have a definition about yourself as you go into this field. It's very important because you will find yourself as a 1 in 3, just like Sepo, out of 70. And if you know who you are, what you want, what you're passionate about, you will be able to lead a group of 70 men, and that's just another fun aspect of being a woman engineer. So dare to be different, dare to challenge the status quo, and just dare to be persistent and assertive and bold to become a decision maker as well.
Okay, Leah, we couldn't end on a better note than that. So thank you so much for the positive words. And I see that the conversation is continuing and there's so much that has been learned. So thank you, experts, for your time and sharing your stories. And I think at the end of the day, these are stories that we could never find on Google, and that's why these opportunities exist. And definitely from our side is looking at the success of this is definitely having more of these conversations more often. So that's it from my side. Thanks, experts. Thanks to all the girls attending. I know we've got girls joining in groups as well. So we acknowledge you, and thanks for taking the time out to be part of this conversation and sharing with everybody. And I think Kosako says a little burden has been lifted. So a lot of positivity. We'll continue the chat on WhatsApp, and we'll be sharing to bring you part of the Girl Inch global group. So even post this event to continue these conversations and answer those questions that we haven't touched on as yet. Thank you everybody for joining, and have a good Saturday. Bye.
Thank you, and bye-bye.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.
Please come to engineering.
Bye, guys. We'll certainly do that.
Mining.
We really had a lot of fun.
Thanks, everyone.